Okay, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody, depending on where you are in the world. We're going to go ahead and get started. Normally, I give a few minutes to let people in from the waiting room, but we don't seem to have a waiting room today, so we're just going to go ahead and get moving on this. My name is Chris, and I'm going to be your community host today, and it is my pleasure once again to welcome Tiffany, and hopefully Matthew to this session, who will be answering all of your AutoCAD electrical questions today. For those of you who are new to this format, and I don't know if there are any of you who have never done this before, but this is one of our community conversations, a series where we invite expert speakers from all across the community to come in here and do what they do best, share their knowledge with you, and take care of all of your needs. For this particular series, for those of us joining for the first time, this is kind of an open forum where Tiffany, and Matthew answer all and any questions that you might have, or just talk about anything that you want to talk about related to AutoCAD Electrical. Usually we do this one on the second Thursday of the month at around this time, or maybe a little earlier, might be an hour earlier. So keep an eye on the Community Conversations calendar for when we get the next session added, so that you can reserve your spot. Now I'm going to put a file into the chat at this point, if it will allow me to do so. Oh, there's Matthew. Matthew just joined. Okay, well, I'm going to have to put these links in here a little bit later, so hang on to that. Hang on to that thought. I'm going to share with you a series of very important links for the community, and it will include a link to this community conversation. So let's get this out of the way. Our safe harbor statement just basically says that if we talk about anything in this session or any of our sessions that is kind of forward looking, don't use that to make any purchasing decisions. Make your purchasing decisions based only on the state of the software as it exists today. We do have everyone muted, but we invite you, if you are comfortable to do so, to turn your camera on so we can see your lovely faces. Use the raise hand or put your questions in the chat, and we will get a hold of you and let you know that it's your turn to ask a question. We are recording the session, and a link to this recording will be put on the community conversation site for this session. And I just want to point out that you can also question and comment on that community conversation site. We want to keep this conversation going long after we turn off the record button on this meeting. So feel free to add your questions and comments there, and we will follow up with those. So that's enough from me. Let's hand it over to our wonderful expert speakers, Tiffany, and Matthew. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you guys can just talk.
Thank you so much, Chris, and welcome everybody. It's so good to see you all again. It's been a couple months. It's good to be back. It's good to see you. I was just trying to reflect back actually as Chris was speaking. Did we have one in January? I knew we took a break in December, but I didn't think we did. I went back and checked, and so it has been quite a few months. And so it's good to see you all. I'm excited to hear the questions that you may have. We'll go through who we are again for anybody who may be new, because I think I might see some new names on this list. So that's exciting. Welcome to the call for the first time. I am Tiffany Bachmeyer. I lead our global M&E and advanced manufacturing teams here at Autodesk, but I'm actually coming to you wearing a very different hat. I am a longtime AutoCAD electrical expert, and I'm welcomed, or I welcome my additional colleagues in this same space. Tiffany Weisbrod is also an electrical expert, along with many other things that she is expert on. And Matt Durst also joins me as a Vault expert, all things data analytics, and we're pulling him into the AutoCAD electrical expertise as well. So we're yanking him in there, but he can help a lot whenever there are questions around the Vault side of connection, because that is a big thing that we hear about. And a lot of times we get questions on those interconnections of Vault and electrical. And thank you for those that have shared your video. I love seeing your faces on here. And I have to give a special shout out to Randy Brunette, who, while not on that speaker list, I will always welcome and ask him to be a speaker on here, and feel free to jump in, because he is an expert of AutoCAD electrical, and we love having him on here. So thank you, Randy. And good to see you because it's been too long. All right, and with that, the way that we typically do this is we encourage you to add your questions to the chat. I have my esteemed colleagues on here that will help us filter through this. So as Tiff and I are kind of fielding those questions, Chris and Matt will help us kind of make sure that we're staying aligned and making sure that we're not missing anybody. So if you have questions, I encourage you to please put them in the chat. And I'm just looking to see if there's anything. It's good to see you, Mark, too. Thank you for the comment in there.
Not yet. It's pretty quiet.
Is it quiet? All right.
Yeah, we got quite the audience, but everybody's quiet.
I'm going to take advantage of the lull in the action to post those links that I mentioned earlier into the chat. So that'll give everybody a chance to copy and paste the ones that you want. This is all good stuff, people. So just copy and paste the whole list that I'm going to send you here.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Chris. And as we have always said in these community conversations, if there is anybody who would like to present something that they've done, we've approached these very much as an open office hours because there was a really strong demand. And this has been going for those that are new, just to explain, this is something that's been going on for many years that I've been supporting and that as well. And we're so excited to have Tiffany on board now doing it with us. But it was really to answer an overarching call globally for more connection and understanding around electrical. And so we spun this up to start doing that. It's taken different forms. We are so grateful that the community team has taken it on and taken it under their purview because it has a lot more structure and organization and all the great links you're seeing from Chris, a lot more ways for you to connect than we had in our original inception of this particular webinar. But with that, I would love, and I know Tiff would love this too, if you guys wanted to present, if there were others that wanted to share best practices, things that they've done with it. I know from the history of the people that have been on these calls, we have people using electrical across many different industries in many different ways, from beginner, intermediate to very advanced. And we welcome all aspects of that. I would love to hear what people are doing along with the questions that you may have for us that we can help you with. So I just want to encourage that. If it's not today, I want you to go into next month thinking, I'm in. I wanna share something, and we will welcome it. You're welcome to reach out to us ahead of time, but we're also welcome to kind of do it on the spot too. This is a very flexible and fluid call, and we're open to any of those things. And just as an update for everyone, we often, as new releases come out, we will often give you a little teaser or update of what's new, what things have happened as those things happen. So the format can change month to month depending on what kind of things we have to share with you. And I do share things that I learned from you all with the product team as well. So there have been enhancements over the years that have come directly from this call and requests made on this call. So just to let you guys know that sometimes we've even done some sessions on that where I'll pull up a mural. If any of you guys know what mural is, it's just an online format for whiteboarding, but where I'll ask you all to give inputs on fixes or updates to the product that you're looking for. So these are always good things and good discussions to have. So I just want to encourage any and all feedback like that as well.
Hey, we have one question. I'm not sure how to answer this one.
Okay.
Matthew Heath, is there a convenient way to integrate sheet sets with Project Manager?
No, Matthew,
so
no, yeah, that's a great question. One we get a lot as people make the transition from vanilla AutoCAD to AutoCAD Electrical. To give you a teaser, we had project managers before there were like the true full functionality of sheet sets, and I think there's a little bit of sharing of that kind of came across those product teams. Sheet set manager is phenomenal, but I would challenge you that you probably have more benefit and more things that are coming out of the project manager than anything that you would need out of sheet set manager. There's not anything that's in sheet set manager that I'm aware of that is crucial to electrical that you can't do in the project manager. If there's something specific you're really looking for, I would love to hear that. We can dig into it, but I would challenge you that the management that is the sheet set manager, you're going to get that and more with the project manager. But if there's something specific, would love to Love to know that.
There's a comment that just got added. Our utility customer uses sheet sets with fields. They use Project Manager. So that's one use case, I guess, for the sheet sets is to use the fields.
There is, but you can actually, so you can tie fields into, it depends. So this could be a way deeper discussion, but fields can be tied into lots of things within electrical as well. And you can also tie that to how you're doing updating of attributes and other things within your project. So there's lots of ways for us to interact with that in the same spirit of what would be happening inside of Sheet Set Manager. So happy to dig into that further if you want to tackle it on this call and you want to show us some of the things, we could probably do some troubleshooting and some ideas on it for you right now. Or if that's something that we want to look at for next call and you want to pull together maybe an example and share it with us, we could absolutely do that too. So great question. Really great. Often a very common question, just so you know, a lot of people ask that as they're getting used to electrical.
So another question in here. I am new to AutoCAD Electrical. Mechanical engineer working at the Dutch National Road and Waterways Authority.
Okay.
He's wondering, should it be possible to use the electromechanical link with Inventor for hydraulic schematics in AutoCAD Electrical?
So a couple things to unpack there. The hydraulic, first question would be, do you know that there is the hydraulic symbol menus and tools already built into electrical? Because I would first want to make sure that that is known. And if you're doing it from there, how does that connect to Inventor? I mean, so I can answer this very honestly that I've not done that. I use the electromechanical workflow, but I've not done it through hydraulics specifically. However, I don't see any reason that the interconnection of that workflow is all about the EMX file, and you share your library of parts across both products. So as long as you add hydraulic 3D parts in Inventor and you connect them across that catalog to the same components within electrical, I see no reason why you couldn't use the electromechanical workflow. But I will be 100% honest that I've not done hydraulics in electromechanical.
What would be interesting would be to connect with somebody on the Inventor side and see if there's ever any thought of connecting the electromechanical to Inventor's tube and pipe.
That's a good point.
That would really make it a much easier tool. Right now, that does not exist. They would have to create their own libraries of hydraulic fittings and place them manually.
True. Or just copy, well, or copy those parts from tube and pipe into the electrical catalog so that it references those parts. That wouldn't be that hard. That's more about, because the catalog is owned by electrical, not owned by Inventor. And so then it interconnects there. So when you install Inventor, you can say that you want to be or when you're installing electrical, you can be saying that you want to be sharing the catalog across both of those. But I wouldn't see that you would have to completely redraw or recreate those. You could use what comes with Inventor. You just need to connect it within electrical.
The problem I would see with that is that the wiring tools in Inventor are all about curving the wires, right? Because wires are flexible.
Sure.
Where when you're doing piping, they're all these straight lines. So when I first read the question, I thought, oh, it's going to be magic. This would work. But now I'm less, as I kept thinking.
Tube and pipe also has, there's three modules to it. There's rigid piping, bent tubing, and flexible hoses. So there may be some possibility of using the flexible.
Well, and you probably wouldn't
that
use.
Doesn't exist right now.
Yeah. But there's no reason that interconnection couldn't be used to help bring that info in. You may still have to do the tube and piping through the tube and piping tools directly in Inventor, but so my point, for anybody who doesn't know what the interconnection between electrical and Inventor is, there is a direct connection that you can make between, it used to be an import-export of a file that you had to go in and out of. Now there is a interconnected link utilizing a file in the background called an EMX file that automatically speaks back and forth to electrical and Inventor so that you can, many people want to do their panel layouts in 3D. And while yes, 3D is supported in AutoCAD, it often makes far more sense in Inventor. And if you were to do it with what we're talking, one of the big things that we have in there is automatic wire routing, so that you can actually have Inventor auto route all the wires. You can set up though your own flow forms for those, and then you can have it flow through that if you wanted to. And then that's obviously how you can calculate lengths, because we don't do that out of electrical directly. So my vision is it would just be, you wouldn't be using the auto route. Like that would be the only thing you wouldn't be. You could still use the interconnection of the part catalog. You could still bring in things and have them labeled the same, so that they're sharing that same labeling. It just wouldn't, you'd probably have to do some of that routing. I don't know. That's an interesting question though. And Randy, you bring up a good point. Good call. Where now I don't know where we are,
because it's not magic.
Well, we can try to see what we can do around making magic happen. Always interesting.
Another question about the...
Brian, yeah, absolutely.
Hey, so years ago when I was at Autos, Randy and I worked on the AutoCAD Inventor Electrical connection. Was that 2010 or 11? I forget what year that was.
It was a long time ago.
We won't give a year, just a long time.
I know I was just looking back, and I demoed it in 2016 at Autodesk University, and that I was just looking at my record.
I remember that one.
And that was like the 4th or 5th time I did it. The chocolate and peanut butter.
Yes, with all the Reese's candies. Love it.
Yeah, we were in the Marriott basement hotel with what, a couple hundred people in our audience, and I was doing the Inventor side, you were doing the electrical side, and I think it was the last event for that whole week, and I remember getting like a standing ovation. I'm like, well, this is weird.
Shows you how much people wanted that. That's awesome.
I mean, we were showing it to the Autodesk sales reps, tech support leads, reseller channel, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And I think it was 2010 or 11. It was a while ago. Thus the great year. So going to the tube and pipe, so routed systems for either, like Chris is saying, for flexible or static lines. I'm assuming it's feasible. I would think Steve Dennis would say, "Oh no, we're not doing that now because we have other fish to fry." But does routed systems still have a lot of traction in terms of dev?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've always been kind of the tube and pipe guy on the Inventor side, and I see a ton of questions still in the forums.
Okay.
And there's
are product managers assigning dev resources to do that anymore?
I know the last that I heard was over a year ago that there was a team that's been working on some changes and updates and things like that. Cool. What they're doing, I have no idea.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Yeah, no, Inventor is still getting, there's still many teams on Inventor. It's still a very flagship product. So now
I'm actually beginning to see more and more posts in the forums of people that are taking up cable and harness as well, which is good because that was very slow for a long time.
Yeah. Good deal. Thanks, Brian.
We do have some new questions in the chat.
Perfect.
We have an AutoCAD Electrical library with JIC components. Do we have access to an IEC library too? And where can they find it?
Fantastic. Thank you, Tiff. Yeah, fantastic question. So one of the most, so first of all, I'd be really questioning what release you're on, because the
that was my first question.
Okay. I'm trying to keep up with the chat, but it's hard to do and also pay attention to talking. Yeah, so if I repeat, please stop me. Because that is the old US standard. And while it does still ship with the product, the default is actually NFPA now. So my bigger question to you would be, if choosing IEC wasn't visible to you from the beginning, I would want you to make sure that you go back and work with IT or whoever it is that you work with at your company to make sure that when you go into AutoCAD Electrical is very different than any other product within our Autodesk portfolio in the sense that there is a lot of choices when you go to install. And when you do that, that can really make or break what you have within the product. So you get to choose which manufacturers you want to see. You get to choose what catalogs you want. The library standards, as you just asked about. So there's not only the old US standard of GIC, but there's also NFPA, which is the new standard following IEEE. There is, so they're following NFPA standard 79, but they're in, I think, the new standard, but I don't remember the new name of it. There's IEEE in metric version for that. And then there's the IEC, there's old legacy IEC, and then there's the new IEC standards, as well as Australian, Japanese and Chinese standards as well. So there are a lot of standards in there, and I would highly recommend you get back into that configuration and reload those libraries into your and as you just heard me talking about too, there's also the auxiliary libraries of hydraulic, pneumatic, and P&ID. And a lot of people don't realize that as well. So a lot of people who want to do those interconnected drawings, you don't have to go to a different package to do that. You can do that all within electrical. So yeah, I would highly recommend going back into that. The latest version actually installs everything now. But if you were in, I believe, 2021 or 2 and back, you will have to choose which libraries you want, or you can choose everything. And so I would highly, that's why I asked what version and why Tiff asked that too, because you'll need to go back in and reinstall those things. And I highly recommend, just as a generalization for everybody, if you're on older versions, make sure you create a deployment with the state, because in there is also where you can, this is one of the top things that happens with electrical. You look at Tiff's computer, my computer, Randy's computer, we probably have all of our libraries only on our C drives because it's just the local installs for us, and we are consultants, and so we help people, and we need to be kind of independent. If we were actually doing electrical work on a day-to-day basis, we would need to share those libraries, and you can do that in one of two ways. You can either do that across a network drive, or you can use some sort of third party to connect that. Now, the best one that we always recommend is utilizing Vault. And that's why I said earlier that we have so many questions and why we often bring Matt here, because there is a really fantastic integration between Vault and electrical. And not only do you, the most basic way to Vault electrical is with just your projects and your drawings, so that just the drawings are backed up. But the even more powerful way is doing it with all of your libraries and all of that extra support content also being vaulted. And I won't go too far into that unless there's people that have questions, but my point is, if you go back to that deployment where you can choose what libraries you want and what other supporting files you want to be included, that's also where you can set up shared directories. And if you don't do that, there's often a lot of manual effort in trying to move all of those files to a shared directory. A lot of people will get it installed and then have to do it all manually. And that can be really painful. Many of you have seen, I share this on almost every office hours, but that's a coupon. That's not what I was trying to grab. Many of you have seen this quick start guide and this cheat sheet that I've created for AUs of years past. And the reason it's so lengthy is because there's so many files that are support files to AutoCAD Electrical. And when you install to just your local, they go to 5 major different areas within your C drive, and they kind of spread out from there, where if you define a specific path, whether that's to the Vault workspace or it's to some shared network drive, it all gets collaborated into one single support folder. So just to let you know, that's a really crucial aspect of installing your software. So if you didn't get to choose to install your own, and perhaps you had IT teams that did, it may be something that they were not aware of, because it is a bit of a unique aspect of electrical. So make sure you go back and work with them to get those things put back into your product, and looking at, are you set up in the best ways? When I would consult on this much more actively than I do today, one of the top things I would do was teach a training class before I ever had the company fully implement and install everything, because I wanted them to understand all the different aspects of how you could set up electrical, so that they could go into it making the best choices about how they wanted to install and deploy it across their entire organization. So I typically would teach if it was a very large company, a small group of power users who would really get to define all of those things. Then we'd get it installed, and then we'd go to that more basic training for the rest of the team. So just something to think about. You get it set up right and you're going to be off to the races and it's going to be phenomenal. But if you don't do that, it could feel like a bigger headache than it should be, because there are tools to make that very easy.
Tiffany, there's a question I just want to make sure that we didn't miss.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I see him even on here anymore, but
Okay.
Jacques Benoit had asked if, can the title block update utility update title blocks on multiple tabs in the same drawing file?
It can. So here's the thing. AutoCAD Electrical very much supports the standard things that you think of with vanilla AutoCAD of model space and paper space. However, there are funky things that people do, and that's not me picking on you if this is what you do, but there are some things that have happened over the years of people deciding to put entire projects in, say, a single AutoCAD file, and they use the project or the paper space tabs to create all those different individual drawings. That is going to be a mess for AutoCAD Electrical. AutoCAD Electrical recognizes the use of model space and paper space in its true intention, which is supposed to be what you're drawing and designing is in model, your paper layout of how you want it to print is paper space, and it should be a direct relationship of what's in model to what's in paper. And it should, where you could use multiple paper space tabs, those are intended to be like different sizes of drawings. Like I want to do an A size layout versus a D size layout, or maybe I want to have a more focused view. I'm going to do a detailed view of something that's in model space where I'm also having a general thing. If you try to do completely different drawings across all of those tabs, not only is that going to be a nightmare for the title block updater, but it's going to be a nightmare for all of the interconnected wiring, for running reports, for doing all the things that AutoCAD Electrical does so well. You really need those to be individual DWG files. So just to explain, I don't know if that was the root of that question, but I just wanted to explain that because I do get that question quite a bit across model and paper.
Yeah, that's good. And then real quick, Mark asked, probably another really common question, is ACADE for Mac on the radar? And what I wanted to do, it doesn't look like it is currently there yet, but I think it is on the radar, and there is an idea out there post on the idea station that I wanted to add to the chat.
Great.
So it would definitely help if you go to that link and vote for this. If you want that feature, definitely go there and vote for it. We do see a lot of the ideas that are on there that get maybe higher votes.
Yes.
Will end up into the product at some point.
Absolutely. Great call out. Thank you so much, Matt, for posting that. Yeah, I know that we have Mac support, obviously, for vanilla AutoCAD. I think my understanding is you would still be doing it in, and I am not a Mac user, but in the Parallels or the boot camp, whatever it's called, where you can load Windows. So I think that's more the direction you'd have to go than it being native to Mac. But great question. All right, team, keep me honest. Where are we in the list now? Because I'm scrolling and I'm not seeing.
The list is growing.
Is it? Okay.
We did have a question. How do you add more than quantity of one to a footprint item? Example, I have a 100-foot long table. I want to put in one footprint, but have the quantity of 100 without adding 100 actual footprints.
Well, in that case, you could just go into quantity and out. Tiff, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just going to try and take a screen capture, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. I have a lot of people who utilize different aspects of the fields that we have inside the insert edit component and insert edit footprint dialog boxes for doing quantity takeoffs like that. So you could absolutely go in and just, when you insert it, then change that quantity to 100. You don't have to insert 100 of them. That's just how it automatically adds up your quantities inside your bill of materials. But if you just go, we can edit anyway. You go in there to add the location codes to things, to add description text, just change your quantity to 100, and then that will then populate into your bill of materials, but you don't have to insert 100 of them. So good question.
Instead of quantity, I think it's count in the insert window.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not looking at the window. Okay. That's a good call. Yeah, no, thank you for calling it out. That's good.
No problem.
Good idea. Yeah, I have people who do that on lengths of things too, where they'll put in the total length as opposed to it just being like a DIN rail because they want to see it calculate length. So yeah, you can absolutely do that.
That could be the unit option there for length if you wanted. Okay.
And then I think right below that, if I'm following, sorry, and I know you guys are helping keep me honest, I saw something about predefined lengths for cables. Fixing a flexible hose. So the question is, are you able to have predefined lengths of cables within the cable and harness library and the electromechanical integration? Something similar to fixing flexible hose lengths in tube and pipe. Another question on the electromechanical is the one line component supported. I've tried this and found that it doesn't show in the link. So the predefined lengths are interesting. We typically, when people want to know length information, I tell them that you're getting that out of once you wire everything, you go back into electrical, and when you run the reports from electrical, you'll get it in electrical, not in Inventor. You then redefine, and it will pull in all the lengths of everything that you've run. I've not tested that from a tube and pipe way, but it definitely happens from the cables and wires, because that's what's linking to the wire lengths that we can get in there. So that all happens back in electrical once you've routed it in Inventor and you do the automatic routing. When you go back in, that automatic link will update, and you can do that from the interface within the project manager of the reporting tools that you have there, and you can include wire lengths. To the second question on one lines, I thought one lines were supported. Does anybody else on this have other thoughts on this? Because I thought they were. Again, it goes back to what we talked about with tube and pipe. It's more about, do you have the proper symbol connection across what you need in 3D to what's coming out of electrical? And obviously, it's a far larger library in electrical than what's natively coming out of Inventor, but you can make it as big or as updated as you want with even the existing stuff that comes out of Inventor. But I'm not sure if I have an answer to that. Something we can investigate.
I have a couple of comments. The one with the fixed length would be interesting, not from the report from electrical, but pushing the cable into Inventor.
Yeah.
If you have a 10-foot cable that you buy, and it's only 6 feet between the two pieces, what happens to the rest of that cable, the other 4 feet? Do you roll it up in a circle or something? I think I looked into that, and there's not anything to really
There's not anything that I know to define it.
And the second one with the one line, that becomes tricky because one lines are usually a simplified version of the 3-line or the rest of the schematic in most cases. So when that's happening, how do you take care of those other wires, right? Like in a 3-phase component, you draw it in the 3-line drawing, and there's 3 wires running, but you simplify that down to a single wire in the 1 line. So that's why I'm guessing that the 1 line is causing some problems, because you're running into a difference in the interpretation there.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a great point. Interesting use case and question there to dig into. Good. Embedded after that question. Well, actually, let me see. Maybe I'm missing something. Nope. Oh, Tiff, that was you responding to the library thing. Okay. I had a private message sent just to me, but I think this is good for everybody around, will we be looking at having a live event for AU? So I can tell you, I've been working with our AU team. I've been asking them some questions on this very same thing. The decision has not been officially made that I'm aware of. Chris, maybe you have more info, but I have heard that it is looking good for having a live event, and that they are working towards that, and more announcements will be made soon. So we'll be sure to talk about it on our next call once I have more details. But Christy, if you have more info.
No, I don't know any more than that, but I do know that if and when we are live again, what we are talking about in the community is actually doing one or more of these community conversations live and in person.
Yes.
Plus, doing a virtual component of that as well. So I'm really hoping we do, because that would be very exciting.
Absolutely. And that's what we've done in years past. For any of you who have been on here for a while with me, we've always hosted them in Vegas when we've been there for AU. And then obviously the two virtuals. I don't think we did the one for this last year, but the year before that we had a special session where we brought Nate Holt and Andrew Holt in to kind of do some updates and some info. So we kind of had a special session. So no matter what happens, we will do something special for the community. But yeah, we'll definitely give you more information as we know it on the next upcoming community sessions.
Great, Matt. There's one in there for you for Vault.
All right, let me locate it.
Did you want go? Yeah, you go ahead and read it. That way I don't have to.
Yeah. How do you pull the electrical setup down to users' Vault workspace when integrating electrical setup within Vault scenario? Would be users creating new symbols that is being added to Vault or editing the access database? How these changes are updated, pushed down to other users' workspace area? Good question. So I've had some scenarios where users want this to automatically pull down to that local workspace. So if things get added, you don't want to have to consciously go in and pull that. You might not even know that there's new symbols available. So we do have a utility within an add-on for Vault that will do this for you. It's called a vget. And what that does is that you can schedule a get or download from Vault on a schedule. So every day it will automatically sync things to your local workspace. Or you can do this manually. You know, maybe as a best practice once a week, or just when you sign on, you can do a get from this folder and it'll automatically sync that down to your local workspace as well. So we have two ways to do that: manual, or we can look at the Vault Enterprise add-on and you can do a vget and schedule that and download that for you. So that should answer your question.
Thanks, Matt. And I would also add to that, I mean, I think there's significant opportunities when you're utilizing Vault to have, you know, a bit, we often call out power users and having them be librarians for the catalog database as well as the symbol libraries, so that you don't have everyone in there creating, because there can be funky things if they don't make sure that they include all of the information needed. But if you have that all passing through a couple individuals that are skilled in that, then you can make sure that you're really maintaining it, and you can put those kinds of permissions on that file so that everybody else is just reading it where they are writing to it. And then obviously, like Matt talked about, you can talk about different ways of the frequency of what that update happens and how you get it, whether it's automatic or it's manual. So those are just good best practices in general as you're setting up. Obviously, if you're a smaller company and there's maybe 10 or less of you, you might not need to appoint librarians, but I would always recommend when there's a larger user base that you kind of have that core group of people that are really managing and maintaining those, so that you have clean data and it's not messy.
Yeah, there's another argument here where you could go with a shared workspace. Vault allows for a shared workspace configuration. So that way everybody is just pointing to one library that there is that CAD manager that pushes it out to this shared workspace. So there's no syncing that's needed to be done to the local drive as well. So there's some arguments that can be made on maybe what works best for you.
That one, I'm assuming over the years things have gotten far better in infrastructure, but one of the things that I'd often hear is, well, we want to be able to work locally, but we want to be able to share all of our data. And that really goes to speak to what you talked about first, Matt, but you're right. There's also that secondary option, but often people want to be able to work because they're, you know, while it goes out and searches the catalog database or the symbol libraries, there could be more time if it's on a shared directory. Now, again, infrastructure wise, we should be a lot stronger than we were 10, 15 years ago when people would be doing that. So that should be a lot faster. But if you do often, maybe not so much now, but in years past, traveled or had to use electrical when you're moving, you're going to want to be able to have it local, but also always make sure that you're able to plug back into getting those shared directories. So it all depends on how you're utilizing the software.
Yep. All good points.
Good deal. So I saw a question here around how tying panels to schematics, and I want to address that because, and I'll lean on the team to tell me where we need to go next, because I've lost myself in the chat. But one of the big things that is the benefit of AutoCAD Electrical, right? And there's many, many, many benefits, but the biggest, most important thing is the intelligence of that interconnection between schematic and panel. And so when I hear something like that, I want to encourage you. This would be, and I say this to everybody on all of these calls, one of the best things you can do with AutoCAD Electrical, it is not a hard program to use, but to truly gain the power of everything at your fingertips, take a training class. I really encourage you to, because it will absolutely take you through all of the things that you can do within schematics, as well as how to interconnect schematics and panels. It's very easy. In fact, you can work either direction. You can build your panel first and then have it auto create schematics from the list that you can provide, or you can do all your schematics and have that help you create the panels. But that should never be manual across those. Those things help feed each other. So please, 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 it would be a long thing for me to take you through it all here. I mean, we could give you an example. We could probably take you through just a quick example of it. Or maybe there's even some links we could share out that could probably give you a little more information, but this is to everybody. I would highly recommend, and that's a fantastic question. I'm so glad you asked it, because I think one of the biggest things that happens with electrical users is that people go into it, often, or companies go into it thinking, oh, this is great. It's just going to be like AutoCAD and my team can just figure it out. And they don't make that investment in getting the training for everybody. And the training should not be, I would say it's probably going to range from 2 to 4 days, depending on the level of knowledge you want to have on it. I used to really, really, really swear by a full 4-day, because I would spend the first day updating everybody on vanilla AutoCAD changes, because so many people kind of had to learn AutoCAD just by using it. And so they didn't always have the most best practices. I saw a lot of exploding, which is really bad in electrical. Don't explode. But I would see a lot of that kind of manual efforts. And so I would want to get everybody aligned with all the best practices they could have in vanilla AutoCAD before I took them into electrical. But then electrical is really, it's 2 full days of schematic and panel basics. And then your 3rd day is really about understanding how to edit the catalog database, how to build symbols, how to do, PLC updates, how to use automation like the spreadsheet to PLC IO utility. If you've never seen that, that will draw all of your drawings for you straight from a spreadsheet. It's amazing. And that's the level. So if you don't need to go to that level, then you may only need those 2 days. But just to explain, like, that's how fast you could have it. But that is, and actually, Chris or Matt or Tiff, if any of you have the link to the, there's forums that I did as a online free course through our customer success sites that gives you an intro to all of this. I basically took my most basic class and I did all the lecturing and then shared the exercises on it. So if we can get that out to them, that may help as well. And that'll at least give you a glimpse, but I really encourage you to take a class with an instructor, whether it's remote or in person. Many of the resellers for Autodesk have those available. And that will be the thing that will get you up and running so fast. And it's okay if you've already been using it for a while. I guarantee there's going to be some things that you're like, oh, I already knew that. And then there's going to be things that you're going to be like, I had no idea I could do that. I've been doing that the hard way the whole time. So I cannot encourage enough that you take a class on this, because it will make all the difference in the world. All right, and with that, I'm off that soapbox of training. So tell me where we are, everybody. What's the next question?
Good question.
Or I can scroll.
There are plenty of them in here. Can you control individual conductors within a cable to connect to components when manually routing? Currently, manual routing selects all conductors within the cable. I'm
sorry, I had to find it. Can you control individual conductors within a cable?
Simon Griffin.
Are we talking in Inventor or are we talking in electrical? Because the interconnections in electrical can still be very individual. It's about how you assign them to one another, and that's through source and destination. Really, and the cable tie relationships that we have. So there's 2 different things happening there. But but if it's in Inventor, That's a good question. I do a lot more routing of individual wires than I know, but I've routed full. I don't. That's a good question. Randy, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, you can do both. So the cable is still a collection of wires, right?
Exactly.
At its core piece. So what I've usually done with that is auto routed the cable and just let it do the whole thing, and then unrouted the wire or two that had to run to other places and other things, and then route those individually. But the auto route command does run them through the shortest path to get to a certain location.
Yes.
But you can always manually route it and pick the starting and end points that you want it to use instead. I think there's even some examples of this in those AU classes.
There absolutely are. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. I'm like, I feel like I do cables all the time and that's never been a problem, but I was trying to get to the root of the question there. So that's good call. Thank you.
Sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, sorry. So yeah, with that question, it was if you wanted to route, say if you've got a cable that's going, an individual conductor's going to one component, but then perhaps, you know, half a meter further down that it's then connected to another component. So it's actually like individual conductors within a cable that are being terminated to different components rather than getting terminated to the same component. So it's kind of like cutting a cable and like sheathing it at different locations and terminating it at different locations.
So still an Inventor should still be the same issue. The individual wires, the logic is that they'll go to their connection points no matter what.
Okay, so if you had like a mains cable or something, I'm trying to think of a scenario, but yeah, where you'd have, let's say it would be a cable, but it would be terminated at different components. But so you would sheath, as I say, you would actually like strip the wire and terminate different locations. So it wouldn't be routing. Obviously wires you can do it because you're controlling the individual wires, but when you manually route cables, it only selects all the conductors within the cable, not individual conductors.
No, you should still be able to choose those individual, because when you route that in electrical to connect it to what individual things that each wire of the cable is connecting to, it should know that it's going to which pin it's associated with. So it should recognize that when you're bringing it over.
It does if it's going to the same component, but I'm not sure if you're going to different components that it does it. That's what I've tried before.
I guess I'd have to test that again. I feel like I've done it to different components before. I don't feel like it's always been to the same component. But you're making me question it now, so I'm gonna have to test it.
Just another one on that as well. Sorry to jump in.
No, it's great.
Also with the like component authoring from the cable and harness side, can you at the moment, I think can you only do it in one direction? You can't. Can you like specify two directions on a component to terminate to? So at the moment, it seems like the cable and the harness environment's a lot more for connectors rather than like if you had like a switch, for example, and you had terminations, say top and bottom, depending on the device, but it seems like it's just one direction. I might be wrong with that.
No, you are correct. That's been a bug in the interface for a very long time, and it's been on the list for a very long time.
Okay, it's not just me then.
Nope, not just you.
Okay, thank you.
At first, I wasn't processing what he was at. I saw Randy nodding, like, yeah, I know exactly what he's talking. So yeah, that's good.
So on a thing like a circuit breaker, like you mentioned, where the wires might come in from the top,
and from the bottom,
that's
you can
like
put pins on and give it a direction, and it works great on one side, but on the other side, it always puts this little loop in. And what I have done to fix it is just put another work point in very, very close to the point where you want it to be, just to fake it out and make it go. But that has been a request for a very long time. So like I said, I was demoing this back in 2016, and it was there many years before that. So
I wonder if we need to raise that again more. I think I'm assuming that still has to do with just the general taking the shortest distance issue, as opposed to it seeing that, no, you don't think it's about the collisions.
When you assign a pin, you can author the pin on the components.
Yeah.
And when you author that, it gives it a direction, up, down, left, right kind of thing. but on a component, it can only have one of those directions. So if there's pins on the top of the component or on the right side or the left side where you want the wires that come in from those different directions, it cannot. Each component can only have one direction.
And just to clarify, everybody, we're speaking specifically in Inventor because you can have wires come in from other directions. That's all about how the attributes work in electrical, and they're defined to do that. If you all didn't know that, there are specific attribute labels that actually tell it that it's coming in from the left, from the right, from the top, from the bottom, and you can do multiple. So that's it. So is that I'm just curious. I speak to the Inventor team quite a bit. I'm wondering if is that just an issue with work points? Like, do we just need to change?
To me, that is something that I know I'm not on the Inventor team, so take this with a grain of salt, but everything else that you author, you can define multiple directions. So it should be something that they just need to change and make it possible. Like tube and pipe, again, that's always my go-to. But when you're authoring pipe fittings, you can have your connection points going in pretty much whatever direction they need to be going in. So I don't understand why they couldn't do that with pins as well.
Well, but maybe this recording will get shared with the product managers and we will talk about this.
I know a few people that I will talk to as soon as this meeting is over.
That's awesome. That's good. This is why we bring these things forward. So thank you guys so much for that question and for all of these questions. It's brilliant.
Good deal. I just sent you a direct message real quick. Can you look at that, please?
Yes, I can.
We've also had a question from Jermaine. Where is your original question? His company uses McLaren for engineering document management. When an electrical drawing is checked out for editing, will the Vault app provide the connectivity expected? So this one, I guess, is for you, Matthew.
Yes, let me look at it one more time here. I was reading it as you're reading along. I just want to make sure I understand it. When an electrical drawing is checked out for editing, will the Vault server app provide the connectivity expected?
Jermaine, if you want to unmute and elaborate on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure I completely understand.
Yeah, it's not like I know what I'm talking about either. You know, I'm an IT guy delivering software, and we have users that use a Vault-like system for checking drawings in and checking them out. And then I'm just concerned about, you know, the database connectivity between the drawings. You know, I don't even know how the thing works, but I'm just asking a question. No dumb questions, right?
Never a dumb question. I'm so glad you're asking questions. No, that's fantastic.
So is the question centered around using AutoCAD Electrical with Autodesk Vault, or are you talking about your other document management system?
We have work groups that use the McLaren document management to check drawings in and out. And we're going to be using AutoCAD Electrical in the near future, hopefully, if we can, you know, get it sold. And I know that there's database connectivity to Microsoft Access Database Engine 2016 for the 22 version. And I don't know how it connects, and the people that I work with are on the line with us, and they're listening, and they're just trying to figure out how it connects also.
Yeah, so I maybe just to answer the question, there's no concern about connectivity or integration between Autodesk Vault and AutoCAD Electrical. So if you're planning to use AutoCAD Electrical and you have, again, that integration into the Microsoft Access database, Vault also has its own database which uses Microsoft SQL. So the integration is there between electrical and Autodesk Vault. So there's really no concern about the connectivity expected. I think I'm understanding your question correctly.
So the database that keeps all the drawings, you know, connected, is not stored in Vault. It's stored externally on a network drive.
Nope. It's stored in Vault. So Vault will manage. So Vault manages So when we say database is really the relationships between the files. It's the history of those files. It's really the metadata that's associated to the files themselves. And then Vault also has what is called the file store. So the database and the file store really communicate with each other to keep that in line. So when you check in a drawing to Vault, the file itself, the actual CAD file, is going into a file store somewhere, and we designate wherever that location is on the Vault server. But the database is also communicating with that file store to keep those two in line. That's how we keep track of the version history. That's how we keep track of who checked it out, who checked it in, all the metadata that's associated to the file.
So I don't think that we have two different groups. One group uses the McLaren tool for engineering documentation, the other does not. They're probably going to use Vault as their management's expressed interest in it. The team that probably will not leave McLaren, when they check a drawing out to edit it, the connectivity is still there somehow, metadata wise. How's that? Where's the metadata? What is that? How does that work exactly?
Yeah, I can't exactly speak to McLaren, but if it's like Autodesk Vault, the metadata is going to be stored in the database itself. So I'm not sure what the database system you use for McLaren, but like for Vault, we use Microsoft SQL. So all that metadata is stored in the database in Microsoft SQL, but also connected to the files, the file store.
I wonder if we could have an external Microsoft SQL database that the McLaren drawings could talk to. All right, just something to think about. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for that question, and thanks, Matt, for diving into it. Just to add to you, there is a SQL opportunity for the AutoCAD side of things as well if you're not wanting to use the access. So just a comment there, but we won't dive too far into that. There's lots more. I need to kick this back to Chris in a second, but thank you all so much for all of your questions. Thank you to Tiff and Randy and Matt for all of your support in these questions. One quick comment, I saw the burst comment from Mark, and you're hilarious because you know that one gets me, but thank you for saying just kidding. Yes, burst and explode.
Serious for a minute there.
Very naughty words in my world. And to the person asking about the hybridness of AU, I can't speak to that entirely, but I can speak to the fact that I do not believe it would be in Vegas anyway this year. So if the concern is Vegas, as you wrote in there, that's not that shouldn't be where it is. I can't remember if it's also Nashville this year or if it's New Orleans.
The rumor I'm hearing is New Orleans.
I think it's New Orleans. I think it is.
It's all a rumor at this point.
But anyway, I think we've learned a lot during these last 2 years, and I think that there is a much bigger interest in doing more of these hybrid type events anyway. So I wanted to point that out. I can't tell you anything more specifically about AU, but I will give you the hints that I would not be surprised if there's a hybrid aspect, and I also wouldn't be. I also wanted you to know that it is not slated to be in Vegas this year. So we'll definitely give updates as we have them on AU, because that's always a hot topic. And with that, I'm going to give it back to Chris because I know you need to land the plane. So.
Yeah, there's just a couple things I need to share before the end, but
yes,
I really hate to cut this discussion off because this is one of the best discussions we've had in a long time. So I'm sharing my screen again just for these quick final slides. Obviously, we want to say thank you to everybody for coming. This has been a fantastic call. In the list of links that I sent you earlier, those are still in the chat. Please copy and paste those somewhere. Just put them on your desktop, put them in a text document if you can. I want to make one really kind of a shameless plug. We've just recently launched a community blog on our forums platform. And one person on this call was one of the first people to post an article to that blog. Thank you very much, Mr. Behrens. You are awesome as always, and I hope to see more posts from you in the future on that. So he was one of our first posts was AutoCAD Electrical. Go AutoCAD. So that's it for that. What else have we got here? If you're interested in becoming a speaker for one of these sessions, if you have an idea for one that you think you would like to host, one of the links that I included earlier is the link to the session proposal page. You basically just fill that out with your idea, and Sean Hurley is running this program currently. He will get in touch with you and discuss it further. If you want to talk to him before you submit your proposal, I've given his email address on this slide, sean@autodesk.com. He's more than happy to work with new speakers and talk about what the program is, how it works, and what kind of ideas we're looking for. So if you're interested, please feel free, send something in. I've shared all those links with you earlier for all of these different resources that the community is providing, and this list is growing continuously. So pretty soon we're going to run out of room on these slides, and I'm going to have to do 2 slides. Please feel free to join in on any of these resources, and we want to see you. We want to hear from you. We want you to be a part of the community. This is not just us talking to you. We want to hear from you. There will be no survey. That's the good news. There's no survey for this session this time around, but we are going to be bringing those back. However, if you have a comment, you want to tell us what you think about the session, let us know in the community conversation itself. I did provide a link for that earlier as well for this particular session. So please let us know what you think. And that is it. I'd like to thank our speakers and all of you for coming and taking the time to hang out with us today. We'll see you again next month.
Thanks so much, everybody.